On today's Locked On Texan podcast, to kick off the week, we recap day 4 of training camp, looking at the wins and concerns. Also, there is limitations on the offense. Cody and I dive into all of that on today's episode.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday episode of the Locked On Texan podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and even on Saturdays. Thank you to all of our new listeners. If this is your first time here at the Locked On Texan podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on the Locked On Texan YouTube page, also wherever you listen to your podcast. Shout out to our everydayers. Thank you guys for coming back for another episode of the Locked On Texan podcast as we discuss your Houston Texans. They're in training camp mode, and there is some good things to discuss, also some concerns. I am your Texan football analyst, John, some sports guy Hickman, and of course, joining me like every other day is my man, Texans beat reporter, credential media member, writer for Sports Illustrated, Cody Davis. We got to dive into the YouTube comments. We've been neglecting you guys, and we apologize about that. But there's been some great things to look at from camp. Also some concerns, as you guys see on the side of the screen, the limitations of the offense right now. But, Cody, I would love to kick off today's show looking at some of the training camp wins from day 4.
Yeah, and for me, it was all about the defense, man. First and foremost, John, listeners and viewers, the one thing I would say about this defense, look, it was respectable the last 2 years. However, with Coach Demico Ryan, who was, of course, the defensive coordinator for San Fran over the last 2 seasons, you know how good that defense was. He is definitely bringing that same tenacity over down here to the city of Houston. And day 4 of the Houston Texans training camp, it was the same. As a matter of fact, today marks day 5 of training camp. And out of the first 4 days, I would say that the defense have won 3 of the first 4 days. On yesterday, the Houston Texans had an opportunity to add not 1, but 2 more takeaways to their notion. Steven Nelson recorded his second interception on the day before training camp.
What I told you, I said, man, he was under contract for another year. I don't care if I signed Shaq Griffin or not. I thought he was worth keeping around, and he is proving each and every day that he is worth staying on his team. Cody, I'm sorry, but I love the fact that you highlighted Steven Nelson, who's been balling.
Oh, no, you good. We highlighted him on Saturday's installment of Locked On Texans as well. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, I think I want to tell Steven Nelson, if he runs across this podcast, I'm sorry, because I thought without a shadow of a doubt, the signing of Shaq Griffin, along with some of the shenanigans that he was doing on social media, I thought without a shadow of a doubt that not only would he be released or cut or traded or whatever the case might be, I thought he would have been part of the second unit. However, he's a part of the first team unit, started alongside Derek Stingley Jr. And as I mentioned, he recorded his second interception of training camp on Sunday, which came from CJ Stroud, who was targeting Nico Collins doing the 11-on-11 drills. The other interception, of course, it came from Davis Mills, but that interception was the result of Blake Cashman. John, you talked about it during our linebacker preview that Cashman is one of those dark horse guys that can actually change the notion of the linebacking core, and he actually had a phenomenal day on Sunday, because prior to the interception that he recorded, he also broke up a very nice pass attempt between Case Keenum and I believe it was Jared Wayne, if I'm not mistaken, doing 11-on-11 play. And the defensive front did a very good job creating pressure on the Texans offensive line. And ladies and gentlemen, if it wasn't for training camp, let's say if this was preseason or even better, a regular season game, I think we would have walked away from that game saying, wow, the Houston Texans racked up somewhere in the ballpark of 3 of 4 sacks. Everybody on that defensive line unit has looked really good throughout training camp, and it showed on Sunday.
Man, I wanted to have a discussion about this wide receiver group, right? And so X Hutchinson and John Mechie, they really stood out in practice. Um, John Mechie's route running is what's going to make him a matchup problem in the NFL for this team. Gave Desmond King, who's a very good cover guy, a little 1-2 during one-on-ones, and he was able to make a play. X Hutchinson's pad level on the routes were really good. Beat Sting during the one-on-one. During that portion of the training camp for a TD. The play from the young wide receiver group made it easy for Houston to waive Amari Rodgers, who was waived after practice. The feelings were mutual, right? They both went in and had an opportunity to talk to each other. But if I'm Houston, I'm looking at what my 5th or 6th round receiver, X Hutchinson, has been doing. He's playing like a true outside receiver. And so we talk a lot on the show about who's going to be the number one receiver for the future. X is playing like an outside receiver. John Mechie just looks very good with his route running ability. I also wanted to highlight the D-line, man. So the D-line was very good Sunday. Will Anderson, as Cody mentioned, looked outstanding. With Sheldon Rankins back in practice, he and Malik Collins either collapsed the pocket or had a couple of run stuff on multiple occasions. But who really stood out to me was Derek Rivers on the day, man. Derek Rivers, if the pads were on and the QBs could get hit, he'd have one of those, oh, I didn't know he had this good of a game type of stat sheets. In the absence of Christian Kirksey, guys, Cody already mentioned it. I'm just going to highlight it. Blake Cashman had himself one hell of a practice, 2 BBUs, and that interception on Mills. I want you guys to listen to what Coach Ryan's had to say about his linebacker group. Blake Cashman made a couple of plays today. How are you viewing the linebacker competition right now?
The competition is tight at the linebacker spot. A lot of good players there, and guys have really. They're starting to gel as a group. They're playing well together. They're making plays each and every day. So I'm excited to where that group can take off and be. So all those guys are doing a really good job. Coach Kiffin is doing a great job coaching.
That was Demico Ryan's talking about the linebacker group, and he's absolutely right. It's a tight competition. No Christian Kirksey today, as we mentioned, he was out. But I look at what guys that have been able to step up and get that opportunity to play what they've been doing. Like on Friday, the rookie Henry Tohu, he had a good day of practice. And on the sideline, every chance he got, you see Demico Ryan's taking opportunity to coach him up on some of the things. Same with Christian Harris. So guys are out there taking advantage of their opportunities, and that is what I love to see so far from a lot of the younger guys. No fear, nobody's scared. They've stepped up in the absence of a starter and made plays. And some of the guys who I think for Houston will be great rotational, like Derek Rivers, Jacob Martin, who's back on this team. He also had a good day for their defensive line, right? And so you look at guys that preseason games are going to be important. They're taking care of what they can take care of right now, getting a good evaluation. They're having good days at camp. And when you look at what Houston is projected to do across the defensive line, Gennard, Collins, Rankins, Anderson, Jerry Hughes will also be a part of that, playing majority of the snaps. But when you look at the guys that are backing them up, Nick Caserio said they're going to have a hard time with some of these cuts. And you're seeing, wow, a lot of these guys are performing now. They are performing against the same jersey players, right? I know they can't wait to hit somebody else, but the D-line on Friday and now on Sunday, they look very good.
And as great as the D-line look, and John, this is why I kind of hate training camp, because it's like if you highlight one side of the ball, that also means the other side of the ball is struggling. And the offensive line had somewhat of a rough day, as I mentioned. If this was a game for the defensive side of the ball, we'd be saying, wow, they got somewhere in the ballpark of 3 to 4 sacks. But on the offensive side, it's like, dang, how you let your quarterback get hit? Yeah, and let me just say this. It wasn't Laramie Tunsil, it wasn't Titus Howard, it wasn't even Shaq Mason. It was that interior offensive line when you look at Keon Green and Scott Quisenberry. And I don't want to look too much into it because going all the way back to, I believe it was OTAs, Scott Quisenberry has looked good playing that center position. But like I mentioned during OTAs, mandatory minicamp, and I'm going to repeat it again, he just needs to find a way to stay consistent, because even when you look at his play in 2022, there was moments where he looked decent, there was moments where he looked good, then there was moments like, man, they definitely got to address this need like as soon as possible. And for Keon Green, of course, he is still learning. I mean, there was moments where I looked at him and I'm like, man, you can tell that the amount of reps that he missed during those mini camps is starting to hurt his production in a way. So I'm not giving up on him.
They're giving him a shot. He's been out there running with the ones.
And I do want to say Friday
has been the starter. Friday for Keon Green.
Yeah, Friday for Keon Green looked really good, but it was just one of those moments where it's like, okay, he is still in the very early stages of the learning period.
Yeah, and Scott Quisenberry is still this team's starting center. So I do want to highlight that. Overall, guys, like there was some concerns. Derek Stingley is a concern-ish. Xavier Hutchinson, I don't know if you guys saw the video on Twitter, but he did beat him on a deep pass touchdown. One of the few times Houston went down the field. We'll talk about that. I think that he is still trying to break some bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be physical, which is what I like. It's down the field, those opportunities where I'm kind of like, all right, how can he finish off some of these plays, some of these opportunities to where the receiver doesn't have an opportunity to make a play? I think it was Noah Brown had a step on him on Friday, and we joked about it. Davis Mills just completely missed him.
and on Wednesday, the very first day of training camp, I believe it was Nico Collins who had a step on him as well.
So it's kind of like those 15 past that 15-yard mark in coverage. Stingley has become a concern-ish, but I'm not ready to press no type of panic button. We have a full season to evaluate Derek Stingley, but I just wanted to report that there is a concern-ish about Derek Stingley's coverage 15 or more yards down the field. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be the first player to get a home run. All on an app that is safe, secure, super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. It ain't no waiting going on. You get your money in your pocket as soon as you say, give it to me. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is the official betting partner of the Major League Baseball.
Your early evaluation of the wide receiving corps, is there anybody in that group that actually stood out to you most?
Really all of them. I mean, everybody stepped up. Everybody's getting a lot of reps. Everybody's competing at a high level. And I think I've had a pretty good connection with every single one out there. And one thing that sticks out to me is they're not selfish. They have bought into the running game and bought into blocking. And I think that's when you get guys like that, it's a winning culture. So.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Monday installment of Locked On Texans. What you guys just saw was CJ Stroud talking about his early evaluations of the wide receiving corps. Had an opportunity to ask him that question after practice. In the first segment, we talked about how good this defense has looked. And like I mentioned, even though the defense has looked good, there's been some concerning moments about this offense. And John, I wanted to have this conversation with you early into training camp as of right now and see whether or not some of the struggles we are seeing in this offense is due to the wide receiving corps, with them not having a true #1 wide receiver or the lack thereof of playmakers, or two, the play of the quarterbacks. 4 days into camp, the most consistent quarterback has been Case Keenum.
Yes.
Of course, CJ Stroud has been the most talented quarterback, and I'm still giving him a pass because as I mentioned on a couple of days ago when we talked about his early evaluations, the one thing that I'm seeing out of CJ Stroud, and John, you saw it for yourself, is the fact that he is holding on to the ball too long, but it's because it's like he's trying to still get accustomed to the playbook. He actually talked about that Sunday morning after practice on how he is still learning the playbook and how much time he spent away from NRG Stadium still studying and learning the playbook. And then there's Davis Mills, who, look, even though I'm still rooting for my guy, it seems like he has regressed from what we saw in 2022.
I would like to say for Davis Mills, to be fair, he did throw that interception to Cashman. Cashman actually made a hell of a play on the ball. But after that, I can't remember how many he completed per compared to his attempts. But after that, it did seem like everything kind of slowed down for Davis. And so on Sunday, I thought Davis Mills looked better after the interception, but the interception was big. Now, in terms of your question on the concerns of the offense, compared to, is it the defense that's just that good, or is it? So I'm not going to take away from the defense. We'll talk about that momentarily. But I think that it isn't because Houston doesn't have a number one. It isn't because the lack of playmakers, because we are seeing guys go out there against very good secondary play and make plays for Houston. I think right now it's just learning this playbook and learn, because we know the quarterbacks can't get hit, right?
Yeah.
The biggest investment in the NFL is your quarterback. They're not going to get hit. And so when I'm seeing from Mills, when I'm seeing from Keenum, but what I'm seeing from the future franchise quarterback, CJ Stroud, I'm seeing them just take the opportunity of them knowing they are not getting hit to just continue with the play, right? To still make a play in order to have that, oh, this is what can happen if I get the ball out quicker, if I have the opportunity to maybe scramble out and make a play downfield. So they're finishing plays off, and for that, I have no problem. I do want to mention that because of the secondary, we may see some cover sacks this year. Like, those guys being able to hold everything down on the back end, and the addition of Jimmy Ward playing next to Jalen Petrie is going to be big, because I don't see many opportunities where guys are going to just feel free to come back there with their safety group. Either the ball is going the other way, or you are coming down hard with a hit. By the way, Dalton Schultz and Jimmy Ward did collide with one another during practice on Sunday. Dalton Schultz was down for a moment, but he did walk off on his own too. Went to the training station, and he returned back to practice. But when I look at the secondary and what I have a concern with right now is the limitations on plays down the field. I am concerned in that area, because either the quarterback and the wide receiver just not on the same page, or the opportunities just haven't been there during 11-on-11 drills, during some of the 7-on-7 drills. The one-on-ones, you see those opportunities because it's designed to take a shot down the field, right? The Xavier Hutchinson over Derek Stingley, that was a touchdown that was designed down the field. But with the 7-ons and the 11-ons, I'm looking at an offense that, as of right now, it seems like they're just trying to get the basics down for what they want. I do love the fact that we're seeing some motion. One of the plays that were made down the field by Tank Dell, I think that was a 20-yard bomb, motion from the outside back in. I want to say it was trips left. I can't remember. But the motion to get him open and free him up. Like, that's going to be big for Tank Dell in the NFL, because I don't think he's going to win outright. And so his size matters, guys. Pause. But the size does matter. And they're going to have to find ways creatively to get him open, right? And scheme him up. So that's one. That's not a limitation of the offense, but that is a limitation of your player as of right now. I'm not going to count that against him for his career. Also, when I look at the limitations of the offense, I see an offense that between the center and guard combination, the left guard combination, they're going to have to get better. But look at all of these things as a potential positive. Guys, I do want you to hear what CJ Stroud had to say about the secondary making him better as a quarterback. Secondary helps you get accustomed to the NFL.
Yeah, man, it's been amazing. I mean, me and Preachy, we ride to practice together early in the morning, probably two of the first people in the building, and we just talk a mess from the start to the end. So he does a good job of telling me what he sees in me, and I tell him what I see. They do a good job. They fly around back there, him and Juan. So I definitely appreciate them for just being honest and communicating with me on things they can see I can do better at, and then of course competing like that. Steve Nelson has been a big brother to me. He took me under his wing and showed me some things, and then of course D's team has definitely been improving every day and looks really good out there.
That was CJ Stroud talking about the secondary. Did y'all hear what he said? Who his big brother is?
Steven Nelson.
Steven Nelson. But I love the fact that he's taking the opportunity to, Cody mentioned he's diving into the playbook. And he's also getting with the guys that play opposite of him. Some of the guys that he's going to have to get familiar with, because you play corner, I got to throw against a corner. I got to make a hard throw against a corner. I got to take deep shots against safeties. So they're getting together. I think this team collectively wants to see CJ Stroud take him to the promised land. When he comes around, man, the feel of CJ Stroud is real. The concerns right now, I think, are just very minimum. Pads were not on Sunday. They actually kick off later today on Monday. And he's still not going to get hit, of course. But what I want to see more is just taking opportunities down the field. The Houston Texans did not take advantage of the down the field throws last year. They didn't have an opportunity, and the opportunities were scarce simply because they didn't have a lot of attempts. CJ Stroud is coming from a program in Ohio State that was always able to take deep shots downfield because of their receiving core. To mention, you're concerned about not having a number one receiver, Cody, but they got guys like Xavier Hutchinson who made plays for Iowa State in the Big 12 down the field. I still want to highlight John Mechie, his ability to create separation. I think that he'd be one of those guys that can take maybe a skinny post or a slant or maybe a dig and take that down the field. But I'm not too concerned because this is day 4 of training camp with a rookie quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, and they are trying to establish the little things. Right now, there is no clear-cut quarterback one that is real. You've been seeing it on Twitter from multiple reporters. Of course, CJ is this team's future franchise, but as we already said, Case Keenum has been the most consistent quarterback. Does that make him the number one quarterback on this team?
No.
Davis Mills and CJ Stroud, I think both had good opportunities on Sunday. They both had some bad opportunities and bad plays on Sunday as well. So they're just figuring these little small kinks out day 4 of training camp. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Finally, we are going back home to the YouTube comment section where I love to kick my feet up, chill, and just kind of talk sports just a little bit before we close out today's show. My man Tyler Morg UDC, y'all be getting me with these names, but he did ask a very good question. How much could our play calling determine our wins? I see a lot of talk about players and how talented they are or not, but how much can we improve just off coaching alone? Tyler, right now, I think that is offensively, that's very difficult to say, honestly. 4 days into training camp, you've had those oohs and ahs moments, but then you had those, he could have made a better read moment, right? He could have did something better. I think one underrated player for this offense that can really help this offense move forward, Devin Singletary, who, by the way, man, I think Cody is taller than Singletary.
I think so too. When we was talking to him at the press conference, I had that same thought. And ladies and gentlemen,
can Cody go out there and tote the rock real quick?
I was like, whoa. And I'm not no tall dude. Like, I'm what? I like to say I'm 5'9". John like to say otherwise, but I'm 5'9". I'm putting that on my driver's license because I got to renew it.
Okay, well, you're lying. But I think Devin Singletary is going to be a good player for this offense.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the question simply because, of course, better play calling. I think that will result to more of an offensive system and a more efficient, the way the offense is moving. But I also think the defense right now is what I'm looking to say this is why Houston maybe won this game. The secondary made plays and got some turnovers. The D-line was able to get after the quarterback or stop the run because that's what they've been doing in practice so far. That's what we've been seeing more consistently of. Secondary making plays on the back end, the D-line being able to kind of stuff the run, or if they were able to hit the quarterback, sack a quarterback. So the offensive play caller, I think, will, again, help this team become on the offensive side of the ball more efficient, which is something that this team lacked last year. And I think the play calling will be able to be a direct result, excuse me, of this team being more efficient on third downs. But I still point to the defense as to why I think this team will be able to win some games. Cody, listen, right after y'all kind of been slacking on covering the running back room, but what's there to talk about? They're going to be great players. How have Dale and Hutchinson been looking? So can you talk about the running back room really quick, and then answer how has Tank Dell and Xavier Hutchinson looked for the Houston Texans so far?
Well, I start with the running back room. We haven't been talking about it because there's nothing surprising about it. Dameon Pierce rushing up the middle, finding the smallest gap, no concerns. Same thing with Devin Singletary.
Has looked good, by the way.
Yeah, Valade looked really good. He had a really good day on Sunday as well. Look, that running back group, if there is one position, well, two positions where it's like, okay, they is just as good, if not even better than advertised. I will say the secondary on the defensive side of the ball, and of course the running back position. By the way, I do want to mention Devin Singletary. He has been utilized pretty often in the passing game as we expected. So that backfield has looked really good. Now, who's the two receivers? Xavier Hutchinson and Tank Dell.
Yes.
Xavier Hutchinson is another guy I would say been even better than advertised. On Sunday, he had a really good day. We talked about that in the first segment. Tank Dell. How can I put this?
He's small.
He's small, and I do believe that his size is going to hamper his play as a rookie. He definitely has to put on some weight. And I say that because on Sunday, I'm pretty sure everybody has saw the play. And if they did it, just go to DJ Bieniemy's Twitter account, because he had an opportunity to get a really good shot doing one-on-ones where Steven Nelson literally locked him up. And that wasn't the first time.
He was strapped down.
And that wasn't the first time we saw that. As a matter of fact, I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday morning, he got locked up in a similar way by Shaq Griffin. However, what I would say, Tank Dell, he's going to excel if he has a lot of space.
Yeah. So, not to cut you off, but this is something we talked about multiple times throughout the offseason. I don't see Tank Dell outright being able to beat corners straight up and down consistently.
Yeah.
I don't. But this is an offense that if we see any glimpse, a glimmer of what we saw from Kyle Shanahan, which is where Bobby Sloak is coming under, he's under that tree, then I'm going to expect them to, Tank Dell, I need for you to shift from left to right, right to left. I need for you, like they're smart enough to know one-on-one with a linebacker, he may win that 9 times out of 10. One-on-one with a slot, depending on that slot corner, he may win that 9 times out of 10. It's just about him getting into that space.
Yeah.
Sitting in zones. Well, if he can sit in the zone, and he's been very good on those out routes, by the way, but if he can sit in those zones where he got maybe 3 or 2 yards from the next player, I'm okay with what he can do for this team. Romy Rowe. Okay, Romy Rowe. Does Fairbairn have any true competition in camp this year? On a count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
No.
No, listen. Fairbairn is still going to be this team's kicker.
Which I would say, I think he's going to be better this year because the offense is going to be better. I think sometimes he was missing those kicks the last 2 years because he was tired. Sometimes that was the only way the Texans scored.
You better watch it. He probably had a parlay he was trying to cover, or he was on Prize Picks betting. You better watch it. By the way, man, I want to call him John Weeks, not John Weeks. Cameron Johnston, the punter. Mm-hmm. Beautiful legs. And the way he's one of the best punters in the NFL, guys. I think so. He doesn't get the credit because he plays for Houston. But in terms of special teams, there isn't no competition between kicker and punter. You see Mechie and Tank Dell back there returning kicks. So I think that's interesting to see how that plays out. With Amari Rodgers now gone, that leaves the door open for those two guys to solidify their roles in that. I'm also excited to see, because I don't know how much they want to have Mechie back there to make sure that they kind of not save him a little bit, but just kind of make sure that he's on that field for offense. I'm excited to see, and I haven't seen it yet, but if they give X-Validay an opportunity to return kicks for the Houston Texans as well.
Oh, and speaking of Tank Dell, he's been another guy that's been getting a lot of reps in the return game.
Yeah, he has. Let's get one more. How has Dalton Schultz looked? This is from Foster Games 5920. He wanted to know, how has Dalton Schultz looked? I'm guessing he looks good enough to not be griped about, but not great enough to be main talking point. Safe option might be the correct term. Very good question. I thought Dalton Schultz looked good, man. I think he's been looking good as a blocker. He's been able to be Dalton Schultz, what you've seen from Dallas, right? You're not going to expect, which is one of my gripes about him, but I know his game. You're not going to expect Dalton Schultz to be able to consistently have those shots downfield, but anything in between, 8 to 15 yards, he's been efficient for Houston, and I think he's going to be a good addition for this team. I think it's plain and simple, a good offseason signing. Glad he was able to get back up on his own ability today after going down from a collusion bang hit. But Dalton Schultz has looked good. And I also want to say that Brevin Jordan had a much better day on Sunday compared to his day on Friday. So he's still in there fighting. Huh?
I wanted to say that, but I felt like if I highlighted Brevin Jordan, I was going to get a whole bunch of, why is Cody so high on Brevin Jordan?
Listen, Jarrell Scott 5203, shout out to you, man, because you see what I deal with. Why does Cody have faith in Jordan? I'm not going to say how he described Jordan, but in fair to him, caught a nice 20-yard wheel route bomb. I think that was from CJ or maybe Mills. I can't remember the quarterback.
It was Mills. I remember that.
Mills. So he had that play. Also had another play. I like the young kid, Jordan Murray, undrafted rookie free agent tight end, I think from from Hawaii, or can't remember. But Brevin Jordan did have a better day. Thank you guys for checking out today's episode of the Locked On Texan podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texan podcast on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, and follow us on X at Locked On Texans.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter and Thread at Cody Davis _24. Once again, that's Cody COTY DAVIS _24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.